Hello, welcome back. Today I'm talking about my Brother Mat and retacking. The Brother Mats are, or the new Brother Mats, the SDX1200, are notoriously unsticky. This one's been retacked. You can probably hear and it sticks to my hand. A couple of disclaimers. My machine is out of warranty. This mat has issues in that it got some wear because of the wheels and started feeding skew. So I've sliced like millimeters off the edge once and it needs doing again. So basically, if I mess this mat up, it was a dodgy mat already. Am I allowed calling something a dodgy mat? Your first step with retacking is that the mat needs to be stripped. So I've left it partway stripped that you can actually see the difference. This has got nothing. There's not, I don't think, a feather, a piece of thread would stick to that. There's no more stick. This still has tack. So in order to properly retack your mat, make sure you strip it. This one was previously retacked with stencil glue. It worked, but my prep wasn't good, my masking off wasn't good, my evenness wasn't good, and that's why I'm stripping it, even though it still has a lot of tack, and I want to try something new. So if you are watching this video, there's something new worked. If this video never sees the light of day, there's something new didn't work. Here we go, the matte strip. The slight yellow tone you see is the cloth I used with acetone. I used acetone in the end. If you don't want to use sort of harshish chemicals, I also had quite a lot of success with undiluted lavender essential oil. Please use the necessary caution and proper ventilation. So the mat's completely, the only thing you feel are the cuts and things. This mat's well used and lots of cuts, but there's no, even if you rub your fingers, it normally gets little glue frommies, I don't know what the word is, and so that's all gone. I also just gave it a good wash and soak with dishwashing liquid. So preparation really is key when retacking. The next step will be to mask off your edges. This is painter's tape. It's sellotape brand. It's like a washi, but it's definitely far more stickier because you don't want any seepage. So although your blade doesn't cut right to the edge, that's the easiest line to follow, and you don't want glue in any of those edges in any case, because that's your paper doesn't go there in any case, your 30 by 30s. So that'll be the next step, to mark it and to smooth it so that you get a straight line on the glue and that you don't get seepage, and that'll go all round. And then for my next trick, this is not something that I've seen anyone use, maybe they have, is green Tombow. If you let Tombow dry without sticking something on, it becomes tacky and is meant to be a repositionable glue, which is basically what stencil glue and all of those other glues are. So I thought maybe you can retack a mat with it, so I'm going to try it. What's the worst that can happen? I'm using a craft squidgy purely because I got a gifted one in someone's D-stash, but credit card can also work, because you now need to make sure. The only thing with the zig, I think, is it's blue, so you know where you've glued. And then I think you're meant to go in one direction and then in the other direction. And it's also a fine line between just squidging everything off again, right? Because you don't want endless amounts of glue, because then your papers and things will tear, but you also need a certain amount of stick. But if this thing oversticks for whatever reason, it's not my primary mat, I will just use it for fabric or thicker cardstocks or something like that. I'm now just sort of taking, can you see the shiny? I'm just taking an angle and looking from the side, and you can clearly see if there are spots you've missed. So I just then go over them. I'm doing a very light layer, purely because this is totally experimental for me. I'm also paying particular attention to the corners because that's where I find my matte, material doesn't want to stick, and then I'm going top to bottom, left to right. As I said, I'm not sure how thick, and then it needs to dry and get tacky, so that'll probably be overnight. The motion is really a skimming, a very light floating almost. It's definitely not a scrape, because then I think you're just going to scrape off. But as the layers are building up, I can definitely see patches I've missed, especially with the change of direction. So hopefully we'll get a workable product tomorrow. What appeals to me about the Tombow, it's cheap and it's readily available. It's not special order, it's not only certain vendors that have it. And it's often on special in bulk packs, and it's not like a special glue that you have to only have to restick your mat. It's something that you have in any case. So fingers crossed. I've let this dry overnight, and I can tell you it's tacky. Can you hear that give? But the glue stays because my hands don't have glue on. So it works, but I think it's too tacky, which I probably expected. I'm going to try fabric. So that sticks beautifully. And pulls off thicker cardstock maybe. This is my mind's eye. It is a thicker textured. That again sits beautifully. Let's see if it tears when I take it off. No tears. So I think for the thicker ones, definitely, I'm going to do some cuts and report back. But if this works, can you hear how excited I am? This is a very nice stick. And there's no residue on me. I'm back with some last thoughts on the mat. I've done some cutting. So definitely you can hear by the way it pulls off. It is sticky. The whole thing lifts. It's been soaked with some Sunlight Liquid soapy water. It's had a baby wipe and the stickiness remains, so the mat is clean. What I cut some fabric. There's fraying, but I mean that's normal. It cut really nicely, and that's with no backing, no starching, no stiffening, just purely because the mat sticks very well. I did some cork. The cork's got a backing. Also, I've never been able to cut this on any of my other mats, and it's cut beautifully. I cut the most basic, cheapest cardstock, so very thin. It did okay. Pulling off, I had a bit of, but I didn't use a spatula. This is me just pulling it off. So definitely, it's sticky. I don't think antique papers, very thin cardstock, anything like that will work. Acetate worked, fabric worked, the bulkier things. So I may just keep this as my very sticky mat. So long and short of it, can you use the green Tombow, the restickable one, to re-tack your mat? Absolutely. Have I figured out the best quantities or how to dilute? No. Was it easier than the Dala stencil glue? Yes, and I am happier with the result. So definitely give it a try. I think it'll work. Maybe just dilute it, because you do end up with a very sticky stick. This is computer paper, right? This is copier paper. So that's properly stuck down. I'm going to see if I can show you. I don't have my... But you will not be able to get that off. Do you see? Just there, you're getting some damage, but this is now basically the thinnest paper, and you get, can I zoom in? You get a tiny bit of damage. So I'm happy. I think that's a really affordable way to restick a Brother mat. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you try it and you dilute it, what sort of ratios you go with. Bye-bye.